picking up the bargains from the cheap clothes shops, how much should we care about where they come from and the impact that's having on the environment? Well, an eco-conscious fashion designer from Hagworthingham in Lincolnshire says that we should be on everybody's minds when clothes shopping, and is urging people to ditch what is known as fast fashion. But at a time when people are feeling the pinch financially, of course, can they be convinced to pay more for longer lasting clothes?
I'm Sanyukta Shrestha. I am a sustainable fashion designer. I've been running my business since past 11 years in the UK. I've been invited to many red carpets, including Top Gun 1 premiere and Fashion Awards 2022. Also, I've been able to meet a fashion legend, John Paul here. It has been like a dream. All my designs are handcrafted ethically and sustainably in Nepal by amazing artisans, which I'm very proud of. These two elements in my business is very close to my heart, because without sustainability and women empowerment, our future looks blurred, because we wouldn't be able to leave anything for our next generation.
For me, fast fashion is like, oh, I can buy this and it's quite cheaper and I look good.
I like loads of clothes and cheap clothes, so that's about it.
I don't really think about the environment, I just buy whatever's style. I buy online.
I pay for better quality, so I pay more for clothing. Whereas I suppose for you, don't you?
Yeah, I've got 2 kids, so I normally go for like the cheaper ones, yeah.
The environment doesn't bother me, as long as I get what I want.
Is it worth to do fast fashion? Is it really necessary? It's more important what you buy, how much you're going to use it, rather than how many you have bought. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to just pile up all the clothes in your wardrobe and not use it ultimately. It's going to cost you your pocket and cost the earth as well.
Yeah, such an interesting subject to have everybody talking tonight. This afternoon I spoke to Besma Wave. She writes extensively on sustainable fashion and lifestyle. Besma, I mean, people want cheap at the moment, don't they? Doesn't sustainable fashion need to take a back seat?
I mean, there are a number of ways to save money on clothing, and changing where you shop often seems to be the first thing that people want to do. However, changing to a retailer that offers rock bottom prices can often mean that you're changing to lower quality items or supporting some form of exploitation that's going on in these brands' supply chains. So saving money for clothing could be something as simple as just looking at your wardrobe and repairing something, altering it, swapping clothes with a friend, or going secondhand. It doesn't have to be swapping to fast fashion or low quality clothing.
The trouble is, a few people paying through the nose for sustainable t-shirts is not going to make a difference to the world, is it? And that's what's happening at the moment. And people have got to think about their pennies.
You're right. As shoppers, we are voting with our wallets, but we aren't typically responsible for the entire impact that these brands are having on the environment and on workers. It's the owners, directors and shareholders who are mainly responsible for these problems. So I do think it is worth us taking it with a pinch of salt when it comes to changing for more sustainable fashion. If you can afford to do it, if you can spare the time, the energy and the additional expense.
I mean, many of the big clothing brands now say that they're eco-friendly. Isn't that enough?
I typically don't appreciate fast fashion brands and big brands that have one sustainable collection calling themselves sustainable. Go for brands that are sustainable at their core, that offer their entire range made with more sustainable materials, made with transparent workforces, and are creating good quality clothing. Don't go for the ones that have a collection that may be more sustainable than what they're originally offering, but they've only changed a button or a percentage of a material.
Fair dues. Just finally, I was reading that we buy 5 times more clothing than we did in 1980. Presumably the cheapness has done that. Is this a good thing or not?
It's not a great thing. A lot of that clothing ends up in landfill, and a lot of these manufacturers aren't typically being responsible for taking those garments back at the end of their life cycle. So it's having a huge impact on the environment, and it isn't necessarily shoppers' fault. It's a change in buyer behaviour for sure, but I think it's the fashion industry that's pushing that, and they need to be responsible and reduce the amount they're making.
Talk about this one for a very long time. Besma, good to have you on the programme tonight. Thank you very much indeed. It's interesting as well. I was reading earlier that the fashion industry is responsible for between 8 and 10% of global emissions, and also British shoppers buy more clothes than any other country in Europe.